to equality before the law. I do think that everybody has got the right to equality, whether it is before the law or within family, within friendships, but the right to equality is quite important, which is something that has been a big subject ever since democracy. Are we equal as people? Are we equal within the workplaces? Are we equal before the law? With this whole concept of having law being studied and having lawyers representing us, and always depending on who is the best lawyer and who isn't the best lawyer, it is quite difficult for some people to feel as though they are as equal as the others. We see in movies, we see also in the live courts that when you are being said to come in front of the law and to try and fight your case, it really does depend on what lawyers you can afford. If you can only afford a state lawyer, chances are you are not going to get the best defense. But are we equal before the law? We see quite a lot of people as well being said to be not guilty and not actually paying for the things that they have done, the wrong things that they've done, because of financial capabilities and what they can and can't afford in terms of representation. But what about the people that cannot afford the proper lawyers? What about the people that cannot afford to bribe? What about the people that cannot afford to stand for themselves before the law because they do not have that status? So we need to kind of question, are we really equal before the law? Are we all the same before the law? Or does it really depend on who you are, where you come from, what history you have? We see quite a lot of our brothers being incriminated for things that they haven't done. We see quite a lot of our sisters also being incriminated for things that they haven't done, because we might or maybe equal before the law. But my opinion about this is that maybe we're not. Maybe there will never be equality before the law, before anything. And maybe it really does depend on what you have and who you know. Question, are we equal?
For giving us that speech. You gave us an explanation of why you got into a criminology module. Useful to have some background. You talked us through definitions of crime, causes, motivation, criminal profile. One thing that intrigued me about the criminal profile was that the perpetrators in prison tend to have low IQ. I'm not sure if that means that people of low IQ are more prone to crime, or that people of higher IQ simply manage not to get caught. Similarly, with the age profile, whether the youngsters are less experienced and therefore get caught, and the older ones just know how to avoid being caught rather than that they are less criminal. Of course, I'm speaking for myself here. You talked about risk factors, and then you gave us a conclusion. Now, some of the nice things about your slideshow, which compares favorably with many others I've seen, was that you didn't give us overloaded slides. There is this tendency, which is commonly known as death by PowerPoint, where people will produce slides that are packed with information, which they will then proceed to read. And you didn't do that. Well done. You used your slides more as prompts, and I'll say more about this in a moment, taking the points on the slides and elaborating on them rather than trying to pack all the information you were going to talk to onto each slide. So well done on that. Nice, clean slides, some photos as well to illustrate things. Good. Now, one thing we do have to remember, though, is this is still a speech. And a speech needs to be memorized. It's no good using the slides as a kind of a cue card so that you don't have to practice your speech. And it gets worse if your cues are not verbatim what you're planning to say. So we found that you struggled quite a bit at various points remembering what you want to say to particular points, which is a symptom of not enough rehearsal of your speech. And that also showed up very prominently in your timing. Now, this is for everybody, really. You need to look at your timing, rehearse your speech with a timer going, and check what your timing is. And then remember that it's going to take you longer to present. When you're doing your speech, allow an extra minute. So time it for 6 minutes and not for 7. You've got until 7:30 before you're disqualified in a contest, but try not to speak all the way to the clock, just as I have done in this evaluation.
I believe in a benevolent dictatorship, provided I am the dictator. A quote from Richard Branson, a member of the Billionaires Space Club. I must admit, I am an Adolf Hitler of my own life. I have a meticulous schedule that I stick to religiously, but I can't expect to lead people in that way. People don't want to be controlled. They want to be led. They want to be inspired. And I want to inspire them to do what I want them to do. It's mutually beneficial, right? But I need a framework to work with. So I took the Leadership Style quiz as part of my current assignment, and it identified me as being equally democratic, coaching, and affiliative. I know you're wondering, why isn't dictator in this list? Well, that's because a benevolent dictator is not a true dictatorship. It's coaching, affiliative, and democratic. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, I'd like to take you on a journey in the life and times of a benevolent dictator, also known as Sergeant Major Katende. The sergeant's day commences at 0400 hours, where he is awakened by his unforgiving alarm. And I'm sure you know what style is prevalent at this time. There is no negotiating here because I need to go to the loo, meditate, pray, and be out the door by 0445 hours. Because I am a firm believer that if you win the morning, you win the day. I make my way to the gym where I begin my PT session, also known as physical training, that incorporates things like running, cycling, strength training, and weight training. After that, I shower and I head off to the office where I'm at my desk no later than 0800 hours. Once I'm in the desk, I take off my strict Sergeant Major hat and replace it with a multitude of hats, depending on the situation. Prior to my current role as a sales engineer, I provided technical leadership in a range of projects. I took this opportunity to ask my teammates how my leadership was. The results I got were so informative, and fortunately, it was exactly what the assessment had provided me with. So I was not completely delusional. I will share with you just 3 of the feedbacks I received. The first one goes as follows. You motivate everyone, not just your team members, but the clients that we work with. You made the team, which was including the clients, able to collaborate with each other more effectively, even though initially they were very difficult. The style that's at present here is the affiliative style. A style that is so important, especially in consulting, when you are marrying 2 different organizations with a common goal. It is so important to create that cohesive unit. The second piece of feedback I'll share with you tonight goes as follows. You involve everyone in the decision-making. I knew exactly what to do, even though I joined the project later on. This has a sprinkle of democratic, in the sense that everyone has an opinion and everyone can voice their concerns. And this style works quite well with my teammates that are self-starters, self-organizing, and all they require is direction. The last piece of feedback I'll share with you tonight, before it sounds like I'm gloating, goes as follows. You instill confidence in people around you and make them believe in themselves. So much so that they instill the leadership qualities that you bestowed upon them. I must admit, when I received that piece of feedback, it really softened my hard dictatorship heart. This is a coaching style, a style I'm so passionate about because it really focuses on unlocking one's latent potential. So much so that on an informal basis, I provide coaching through mentorship, and I enjoy receiving coaching from my mentors as well as from my running coach. Now back to my current role as a sales engineer. Because I interact with clients to understand their problems, the engineering team to ensure that the solution I propose is in line with what the client is expecting and is also what is feasible. And finally, also from the account side or the sales account side, to ensure that what we are articulating as a solution is in line with both what sales is expecting and what the client is expecting. It really involves a combination of all the hats that I've been mentioning through the speech. I joke about being a dictator throughout this entire speech, but the irony is that I score the lowest in the bureaucratic style. So I pondered on how I could improve the style outside of managing myself, a style that won't work with my organization. I pondered, and then it dawned upon me. When I become a father one day, best believe that's one of the styles that I'll be utilizing at my disposal. So why wouldn't you want a benevolent dictator in your life? Wouldn't you want someone that is democratic, that allows you to voice your opinions, even though those opinions are my own? Wouldn't you want a coach in your life, encouraging you to reach your goals, as long as those goals are mutually beneficial? And lastly, wouldn't you want an affiliative, benevolent dictator in your life? One that creates a cohesive kumbaya environment, conducive of collaboration. I think you all want Sergeant Major Katende in your lives. In fact, you will have one in a few months' time when I will campaign for Vice Presidency of Public Relations. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.